Apple and Google are in a heated competition to see who can release a phone with the fewest changes this year. In this corner, we've got the Pixel 10a, and over here, the iPhone 17e. Both of these are aimed at casual users who just need a daily driver they can count on, so playing it safe isn't necessarily a deal breaker. We're breaking down design, display, battery, performance, and cameras to see which one is the better deal, or if you're better off just grabbing last year's models. Hey, I'm Olive, your host here at Versus.com, and remember that you can join our community by hitting the join button below for exclusive videos and perks. And here's a special shout out to Martin for becoming an Ultra member. Both of these phones give us a throwback to the design trends of a decade ago, but in a good way. They're both usable with one hand, feature minimalistic designs. In the Pixel's case, the back is 100% flush. However, only the iPhone supports magnetic accessories, a feature the previous iPhone 16e was missing. Both come with matte aluminum frames, but they differ on the back panels. The Pixel uses matte plastic, while the iPhone goes with frosted glass. Even though glass is typically heavier, the iPhone is actually the lighter of the two at 5.9 ounces. As for durability, they're both IP68 rated, meaning that they're dust tight and can survive a quick swim in the sink. So as always, let's check in with the team and see who likes which design best.
The Pixel.
The iPhone.
The Pixel.
The Pixel. What about you?
I'm gonna have to go for the iPhone. Now let's dive into the displays. The Pixel comes with a 6.3-inch POLED display, whereas the iPhone has a slightly more compact 6.1-inch OLED panel. The Pixel supports up to 120 Hz, while the iPhone is still capped at a prehistoric 60 Hz. In our typical high brightness test, where we simulate direct sunlight at over 100,000 lux, the Pixel hit an impressive 2,401 nits, and it even topped out at 3,477 nits for peak brightness. The iPhone hovered around 850 nits for both tests. For biometrics, we have an optical under-display fingerprint scanner on the Pixel and Face ID on the iPhone. Now feel free to pause the video right here for even more info on screen specs. Ultimately, picking the better screen comes down to your priorities. The Pixel's display is bigger, brighter, and more fluid. On the flip side, the iPhone offers better resolution and supports Dolby Vision. Both have some pretty chunky bezels, but believe it or not, you won't even notice them after a few days of use. Next, let's play some beats. We've got a set of stereo speakers on both of these phones, and here's an audio sample for you. Just keep in mind recorded speaker studio might differ from what you actually hear in person.
I'm a little too into you. Got my head over my shoes, but I like it. I'm a little too into you. Got me up over the moon, but I like it.
After some testing in the studio, we can confirm both sets of speakers are great, but the iPhone does take the overall win. It offers a bit more bass and noticeably better definition in the lows compared to the Pixel. By the way, if this comparison is helping you decide which phone to pick, then make sure to subscribe so that we can keep doing what we love, and we see a lot of you also love what we do, but you haven't hit that button yet. Oh, and if you want to pick any of these, you can find direct links in the description below. Now, let's check out how these cams perform. For the main cameras, we have 48 megapixel shooters on both, but the iPhone takes the lead in aperture while the Pixel wins on sensor size. Photos from the Pixel usually lean toward a colder white balance with toned down highlights. The iPhone goes the other way, delivering warmer shots with a bit more punchy contrast. Now, only the Pixel includes a 13 megapixel ultra-wide camera. Apple, however, thinks you don't deserve one on this model. The Pixel's ultra-wide isn't on that pro flagship level, but it keeps colors accurate and the dynamic range in check. Most importantly, it gives you the flexibility you just won't get on the iPhone. Since both of these are missing a dedicated telephoto lens, you will be relying entirely on digital zoom. Anything past 2 times starts looking pretty fuzzy, and by the time you hit the max digital zoom, fine detail is out of the window, replaced by some pixelated artifacts. For portrait shots, the iPhone definitely takes the crown. The edge detection is way more precise, as you can see around my hair. Just a heads up, the Pixel defaults to a 1.5 times zoom in this mode. Moving on to video, you can film in 4K at 60 FPS on the main sensors of both phones, though for our reviews, we always stick to 30 FPS. Just like with the stills, you'll notice that cooler white balance on the Pixel, which isn't always 100% true to life. The iPhone stays closer to reality, even if it occasionally overboosts orange tones. It also captures more texture detail, whereas the Pixel can look a bit blurry when there's a lot of movement in the frame. Unfortunately, there is no portrait video mode on either of these, so keep that in mind if you like those cinematic looking videos. As for ultra-wide video, the Pixel is capped at 4K 30 FPS, but hey, at least you have the option. This lens performs a lot like the main one with nice punchy colors, but it struggles with that same cold white balance and softer textures. Still, it's super handy when you just need to capture more of your surroundings. Let's talk front cameras. Here we have a 13 megapixel cam on the Pixel and a 12 megapixel on the iPhone. For still shots, they look pretty similar at a glance, but the Pixel pulls out a bit more detail and captures more natural skin tones. In low light, the iPhone looks more pleasing to the eye, but the Pixel is actually more accurate to the scene and keeps noise levels far lower. For video, the Pixel is still limited to 4K 30 FPS, while the iPhone lets you jump up to 4K 60 FPS. Unlike the photos, the iPhone takes the win for video. I mean, it's significantly crispier, which you can really notice in the texture of my jacket.
So now let's test out the audio coming from both of these devices. We'll start off over here with the Pixel. What do you guys think? How do I sound? Moving on to the iPhone, does it sound any better than the Pixel? What do we think? As always, let's talk about it.
The Pixel puts your voice front and center, though it loses a bit of fidelity. The iPhone lets in all the ambient noise, but the overall sound quality feels a bit more natural. Now it is time to turn off the lights and see how these handle the dark. There aren't massive differences on the main cameras, but if you pixel peep, you'll see the Pixel has slightly less noise than the iPhone. And once again, here is a look at the Pixel's ultra-wide versus the single camera on the iPhone. For night portraits, quality drops off on both, but we'd give the win to the Pixel as its photo looks more usable. As for low light video, the iPhone is extremely dark to the point where it's actually hard to see what's even happening. The Pixel is better exposed, though it could use a bit more color saturation. Funnily enough, the Pixel's ultrawide actually delivers that saturation the main lens was missing, though the trade-off is a fair amount of noise. So at the end of the day, these camera systems will be more than enough for most people. But there's no denying the Pixel offers more flexibility simply by having that ultra-wide lens. But enough about cameras, let's talk performance. Powering the Pixel, we have Google's Tensor G4, while the iPhone is packing Apple's latest A19 chipset. Both phones come equipped with 8GB of RAM. When it comes to storage, both brands offer only 2 tiers, but the Pixel starts at 128GB while the iPhone gives you double that right out of the gate. Here's a quick breakdown of the storage configurations, types, and USB standards for both. But to really see what these phones can do, we threw them into some real-world testing, starting with gaming. We ran 15-minute sessions with a cooldown time in between. First, we tried to run Grid Legends, but Google's Tensor chipset still suffers from game incompatibilities. The iPhone was stable, but it had one brief hiccup down to 25 FPS. Temperatures stayed well within the normal range. Next, we launched Wuthering Waves, which is compatible with both, and cranked the graphics to the max. Both topped out at 60 FPS, but the iPhone actually saw the biggest dip. On the flip side, the Pixel got noticeably toastier during this session. Moving over to productivity, we exported 99 photos in Lightroom. The iPhone smoked the Pixel, finishing in under 5 minutes, while the Pixel took over 9 minutes. We saw a similar story in CapCut while rendering a 1-minute 4K 30 FPS video. Both finished in under a minute, but the iPhone crossed the finish line in just 29 seconds. Now let's look at the benchmarks. In Geekbench 6, the iPhone demolished the Pixel scores in both tests, reaching over 8,000 points in multi-core. It was the same story in 3D Mark's Wildlife Extreme stress test. As you can see, the Pixel's best run was still lower than the iPhone's worst run. Keep in mind that Antutu scores are OS dependent, so we can't do a direct comparison. These are just here for your reference. So the iPhone still holds the crown for game compatibility. even if real-world performance is actually similar in the titles both can run. But when you factor in productivity tasks and raw benchmarks, the iPhone clearly takes the lead with significantly faster loading and rendering times. However, Google still has an ace up its sleeve when it comes to the software experience. On the Pixel, you'll find the Pixel UI based on Android 16, while the iPhone is running iOS 26. Both brands are promising 7 years of software support, so you are covered for years to come regardless of the phone that you choose. The Pixel UI is all about functionality, but with a funky, playful aesthetic. It's packed with smart features like Now Playing for passive music recognition, call screening to ghost scammers, and a brand new desktop interface similar to Samsung DeX. You've also got tons of AI features, from wallpapers and icons to the handy circle to search and Gemini. Good news, you can finally say bye-bye to the at-a-glance widget. Plus, with quarterly feature drops, you get new features all the time. Over on iOS 26, we have the Liquid Glass redesign, which brings a deeper level of personalization. While Apple Intelligence is more capable than it was a year ago, it still feels a little clunky. The system still hands off a lot of your queries to Google or ChatGPT. In fact, it might be fully replaced by Google's Gemini sooner rather than later. On the bright side, the Apple ecosystem still dominates when it comes to pro-level apps and games, as you saw during our performance testing. But let's wrap this up with our last category.
Yeah.
Between the two, the Pixel packs the beefier cell with a 5,100 mAh battery. It also supports up to 45 watts wired charging, while Apple doesn't share the iPhone speeds. However, for wireless charging, the iPhone takes the lead with official 15 watt support. To test real-world endurance, we calibrated both screens to 500 nits and turned off all battery-saving features. Then we ran our 9-app loop, which includes social media scrolling, 4K video recording, web browsing, navigation, gaming, video and music streaming, plus video calling, and a bit more video recording and gaming. The iPhone hit a respectable 10 hours and 48 minutes before finally pushing daisies. The Pixel, however, held on for another 28 minutes, hitting 11 hours and 16 minutes before officially calling it quits. As for charging times, we put both to the test using a 100 watts charger. The Pixel was the first to hit 100%, coming back to life in 1 hour and 24 minutes with a peak of 28 watts. The iPhone wasn't far behind though, crossing the finish line just 3 minutes later, peaking at 25 watts. At the end of the day, since these are budget-friendly devices, the most important factor for most people is going to be the price tag. The Pixel retails for $499, whereas the iPhone comes in at $599. That's a $100 difference, which could get you roughly 31 pounds of powdered sugar mini donuts. Though, as a hint, Google phones are very often on sale, so you'll probably find great deals in stores like Amazon or Best Buy. So if you want to hear what we think, well, the iPhone clearly comes out on top for performance and has the added perk of out-of-the-box MagSafe compatibility. However, you only get a single camera and a steeper price tag. Considering these are budget-focused devices, the Pixel 10a offers a big advantage with its lower retail price, a more intuitive day-to-day software experience, and a much more flexible camera system. But you will have to deal with a lower base storage and the lack of Pixel Snap support for magnetic accessories. If you want to hear what we really think, well, both of these phones are so similar to their predecessors that you'll be better off grabbing a Pixel 9a or an iPhone 16e. All you have to do is slap a case with magnets on and you'll get the same experience as with these newer models, while saving a ton of cash for mini donuts, of course. But hey, that's just our take. We want to hear what you think. If you want to see exactly how similar the iPhone 17e is to the 16e, make sure to check out our comparison right here. Oh, and before you go watch One Piece Season 2, don't forget to give us a big thumbs up if you enjoyed this video and hit subscribe because we're always testing the latest tech to help you make the best choice. We'll see you in our next video, and until then, take care.